Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at whoknewpodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today we're taking a quick trip in the Tardis with Classic Who.
Today it's Who Classic.
Today's episode is Resurrection of the Daleks. It's the fourth serial of season 21. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hello, this is Frank.
Hello, this is Auburn.
This here's Josh.
Hi, this is Brian.
This is our first episode / adventure with the Fifth Doctor, played by Peter Davison. He first appeared as the Doctor in Logopolis and was the Doctor from 1981 to 1984. Tegan Jovanka is played by Janet Fielding, and she's an Australian flight attendant, or back then, stewardess, who mistook the Tardis as a real police box in Logopolis. This is her last story as an official companion. Then we have Turlough, played by Mark Strickson. He first appeared in Drawn Undead, was a student at Brendan Public School, where the Brigadier was teaching, and he was a mischievous student who's really an alien from Tryon, controlled by the Black Guardian to kill the Doctor.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear that.
And then...
That's a 40-year-old spoiler.
And then he breaks free of the Black Guardian's control and travels with the Doctor after that. I feel like we've seen this Doctor so many times.
I know. You did mention his familial relationship to further...
We always do whenever we bring him up. But this is our first official episode as a podcast with him.
Not necessarily. We had the...
Didn't you want to have a time limit on this?
We talked about him in that little short.
That's right. But this is his first official story with him. This story is written by Eric Saward. It was directed by Matthew Robinson. It originally aired from the 8th to the 15th of February, 1984, and Part 2 got 8.11 million viewers. In 1984 London, a group of oddly dressed men burst from a doorway into an alley, chased by policemen. Two of these prisoners escape, while the police shoot the others in the back, along with an innocent bystander. The dead bodies, and all but two of the police, are beamed aboard a battle cruiser spaceship. Commander Lighton, who is in charge, reprimands his men for using bullets because they wanted the specimens / prisoners alive. The two prisoners who escape search the warehouse to find the time corridor entrance that brought them here. An armored soldier blocks their path and kills one of them, while the other, Stein, gets away. From his hiding place, Stein watches as an Earth military group arrives at the warehouse.
Is that really how they spell Stein?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the audio drama got it. They spell it the other way because it's pronounced Stein.
So, body count begins pretty early.
Already.
Wow, yeah.
So, yeah, let's just kill people.
I do like how confusing it is because you have these people in different types of wardrobe. You have the policeman, modern day, and then you have these raggedy guys, and then you have the more space-looking type of guys.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is going on here?
I watched it twice and still was confused about who was who at the beginning.
It is confusing.
So Stein and the other guy, Stein looked more dirty and they were wearing the same outfit, but his was more dirty. Never really caught what the story of that was.
They do explain later. Stein says we're from Earth, but from different times.
So there's a war going on.
I think
That's
the
how
most unbelievable thing in the whole episode was his earring.
Very 84 London, though.
Yeah.
Very,
I know.
Very, very new wave.
I know, but that's the thing. Man, this was wholly 1984 Batman.
Including the body count.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know, we're
Joel
getting
Silver's
close
influence.
to that.
The bystander is the one that gets me. I'm like, that's an innocent.
Yeah.
I told you there's no smoking.
Now I'm smoking.
But I don't think the earring would even catch anybody who's just watching it now for the first time.
It caught me.
Caught me.
I noticed
if a younger
Well,
group would
I
like
think
to
it's
introduce
because the
some
guy
old
doesn't
ones.
look
The
that
guy
young.
doesn't look like it. The guy
No.
looks like he may have had an earring in high school and he never got rid of it. Like just the type of fellow that he was did not look like that belonged. I have a feeling that's what the actor had because it was 1984 and they just left it in.
Those air guns, though, just I was like,
Oh,
what
wait,
is
wait.
that?
Which ones? Which ones?
It's supposed to be bullets to kill those
the
prisoners who are
actual-
running, but it's more of just an air
Yeah,
gun.
yeah.
I almost want to say that the timing of the film didn't capture the muzzle flashes. 'Cause
Yeah,
sometimes
who
that
knows?
happens.
Yeah, that could be something as well.
I like those better than some of the weaponry.
Yes,
Yeah,
I will agree with that.
I will just we'll throw it out here real quick. Just like I think a lot of the props were pretty darn awesome throughout, but the Ed Wood like filmmaking
Yes.
of these episodes, of the storyline just totally killed any legitimacy that they could win not an Emmy, but I'm saying the prop masters of this story arc were darn good.
Yeah, there's one specifically I'll point out that really gets to me.
When they're did they really think that just lights turning on were going to like convey, and so they might as well have been going pew pew pew,
And some don't
Yeah.
light.
and some don't
Yes.
like
Yes.
the noises, and then like they had no weight to them, and then some of the Dalek beams
Literally, some of the
shot,
stuff.
some of them didn't, some of them lit up, some of them didn't.
I have a feeling as the serial went along, they were running out of money.
Oh, I'm sure. Anyway.
I'm thinking this is '84, and what we're doing in America. We've made concessions in the past for other doctors who were earlier on in the '60s, in the '70s.
Well, it
No, you should be at a different rate now, but they must have really cut back on the production cost.
Yeah, it just really goes to show you, like when people say, "How could the moon landing must have been fake? We had the technology to do this, but if we had the technology to put in, like, well, it's different technology." So my point is that it really shows you the advancements in certain things that were actually really good, like all the vacuum forming of the props and the costuming, and as silly as the TARDIS looked like a big Lego, it was pristine and well made. So, but then some of the filmmaking aspects of it were just. Oh, okay, I'll go on. I'll touch base on some of the acting stuff later. It'll be very fun to pick apart, but.
The TARDIS is caught in the same time corridor but manages to break free. They travel alongside it and land in London. The Doctor, Tegan, and Turlough leave the TARDIS to investigate the warehouse in order to find the entrance to the time corridor. They run into a weakened Stein who warns them not to go inside. Of course they go inside. And meet up with the military bomb squad led by Colonel Archer. Renovators had found metal cylinders when clearing out the building and thought they might be bombs left over from the war. Turlough searches on his own and finds the time corridor, which transports him to the battlecruiser.
I missed that totally.
Yes, it's not
It's
filmed.
not in there.
It's
is it?
confusing.
They're like, where is he?
It's confusing.
And then all of a sudden he's on the battlecruiser.
I don't know if you'll notice, but the Turlough character always looks around every time he's walking. And in the commentary, they're like, we should play a drinking game. Every time he looks around, they're having a ball watching him just look around. It's like he's always got to show his profile.
I always love the fact that it's, I walk, they can see me, I duck behind this, corner. They could still see me, but they don't.
He always looks sinister to me. Like I was waiting for him to be like a double or triple agent in some way. Because towards
And
the
he
end,
was.
he was like,
But not at this point. He wasn't. anymore.
Yeah.
But it's still inside him,
But
kind of.
is that what you're talking about right now, or what you were saying earlier? Was that in the know when they made this episode?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
he'd already come
Oh,
clean
oh,
and
okay.
went to the doctor's side.
And that's
didn't
why-
decide
yeah.
not to kill the doctor.
And that's why I gave that to you, because that had already been established. It's not a
Oh,
spoiler
okay.
at this point.
But it does.
Oh, when you said 40-year spoiler, it was like today is 40 years. I thought you meant that was a later plot line with another doctor. And okay.
It's just somehow you have to have some sort of explanation for Turlough because he's just weird.
He is weird, yeah. But I kind of enjoyed that because the actor sold it like more than some of the others. I thought.
Another thing about him is he looks odd because he's really blonde. And so they dyed his hair red so that he wouldn't look too much like Peter Davison, because Peter Davison's blonde.
And his eyebrows. Well, I don't know if they
Yeah.
died then, but
Yeah.
but that's nobody throws it as being
Yes.
different.
I was because at one point he gets attacked by a Dalek, right? And I thought something happened to his face
No.
from being attacked because there was that running bit of people
Right.
people's faces being all jacked.
And until you said his backstory, I couldn't figure out why they kept calling him boy. The boy, oh, look at the boy on the monitor.
Yeah,
look
so
at the
what are
boy
you
here. It's
talking
like,
about?
you got this guy's like 35 years old. He's not a boy.
But he's a
But he's-
schoolboy.
Playing a schoolboy.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
He's supposed to be
A schoolboy?
No, I think they're
A
just.
university student.
Yeah, university.
Oh,
Yeah,
still.
I know.
I like the cloister bells ringing, and
Yes, I was gonna
Tegan
mention that.
goes, "Oh no!" So she knows the sound.
Yes.
I like that. I also like that Turlough knows a lot of things about the TARDIS, how to work the TARDIS, and that was something I haven't seen in Companion usually.
Mm-hmm.
It's a doctor
Not
running
this
it
time.
all, and it's like River knows it, so that gave me okay, this person's different than other companions. Because I didn't watch any of Davison's
this era. But speaking of that, I enjoyed when they were kind of colliding with the time corridor. The way that they shot that, like Star Trek style, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then they turned the camera, and it was like shaky, but still sort of in focus.
There was one
was
point where they
interesting.
turned it and they went the wrong way.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like the shakiness of it.
The shaky reminded me of, I think, Star Trek: The Motion Picture when they go into the wormhole.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
And there was a lot of things in this that were like almost callbacks to other science fiction happening at the time. Like I was
Right.
getting a little bit of Alien, a little bit of Star Trek, of course, Star Wars. I felt like I almost heard the fanfare at one point, but
Well,
then
even
it
when
didn't.
I mean, I know it's years after Star Wars, but when the stormtroopers and Darth Vader break into the blockade runner in the beginning of the first Star Wars movie, there was that element when the
Yeah.
Daleks come
I
in.
felt that too.
Well, yeah, and also how about the just the helmets of some of the humans
Yeah.
where it's Darth Vader meets the Daleks.
Yeah.
It's a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Man, we got to write some Star Wars, Doctor Who fan fiction, or find some out there.
At one point, when they're in the TARDIS console in that opening scene with the TARDIS crew, you can see the shadow of the boom mic
Oh, really?
more than once.
I didn't notice.
And they keep joking about it on the commentary. It's funny.
Who's on the commentary? Do you remember?
Yes, Peter Davison, Janet Fielding, and Matthew Robinson. The director, and then the doctor, and Tegan.
Oh, nice.
That's cool that they were all making fun of it then.
Yeah, they had it was a fun listen to, and the director mentioned that because we've mentioned it, that they shoot film outdoors and
Yeah.
video indoors. There's a term for it. It's called piebald, which is the
You spell
pattern.
that?
Piebald. It's from the pattern of skin or fur that's different colors.
Must have been a thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I learned something today.
Dun, dun, dun.
At a prison space station, a new recruit, Lieutenant Mercer, argues with Dr. Stiles about the morale of the station. He is given a boring job and meets Osborn, who laughs that his complaining must have really pissed off the captain. The battle cruiser approaches the prison station and fires, destroying their defenses. The captain and half the crew are killed, and the battle cruiser prepares to dock. Mercer tells Osborn to destroy the sole prisoner if they are boarded, while he, Dr. Stiles, and the remaining guards go to the docking bay to fight the invaders.
So the captain and half the crew are dead. So ratchet that death body count up.
This is the point where I think the laser effects are the worst, because these model spaceships.
Oh, they just.
And then I was like, oh, that's horrible. You see the cruiser firing on the station. It's so added. It doesn't work.
Well, at one point this ship does turn. Ooh, high tech.
Yeah.
I will say that does look better than some of the Tom Baker stuff, where it's obviously a string model.
Right, true.
Yeah.
And then it's completely ruined by adding in those laser effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what dates it even worse than the models?
Mm.
Smoking on the bridge.
Ah.
Yeah.
They were even commenting on it. Is she smoking on the bridge? But those hats, those green hats, they're like garrison caps. It reminded me of the Thunderbirds. The Tracy crew wears those types of hats.
And they just disappear
Yeah.
after like an episode.
Well-
that was a mistake. We won't be using those anymore.
Well, all their headgear is weird. Even
Yeah.
Lightens, looks like a black version with a
beak?
small beak. Yeah. What is that?
The 80s.
Throughout these whole episodes, there's this. Even the woman who played the doctor or whatever, like, she had some gravitas to her, but everyone's body language is so casual. There was some action scene, and somebody was like, even when she comes in there, what made me bring it up just now is where she says half of the population of the space station or whatever, the battle cruiser, is dead. She says it in such a way like, oh great, the water cooler's out again. And it's just it's so throughout the whole thing, it was laughable to me. And that's when I really started to notice the imbalance of, like, some things are really good and then something like that would happen, and I started to think that there's this one woman who was playing a technician with the fella you were just talking about, where she's trying to, what is she trying to do in a few minutes?
Osborne?
I think it's Osborne. Yeah.
I don't know, Indian
Yeah, Osborne.
woman.
The smoker.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
the smoker. At first, I felt like she was overacting, but then when things got intense, she actually seemed like she was doing well. Like, and then I started to see, this was probably the audition piece. This is why they cast them. That's mostly what I was thinking about during this whole episode.
But that's what Mercer's point was. The morale on this ship is
Right,
awful.
that's true.
Nobody
There you go.
cares. We're watching one prisoner, and nothing's happened in the 2 years you're here. She's, the doctor's
Right.
leaving in 2 weeks if she can get a good recommendation from the captain.
They took that line way too seriously. Everything's too casual.
Yeah. And then later on, when she just takes her gas mask off, and I'm almost saying like, well, I'm bored of having it on. What's the
Yeah.
big deal? And he's like, you might die. It's gas.
Because I liked her. I thought she could act well, and
Yeah.
I wanted to see more and
One-
have her actually develop a character. I think that could have worked out well.
Yeah.
Having her, the same actress who's transported to a current one, would have a lot more depth and would be able to
Yeah.
bring...
It's almost like no one really had a sense of what type of show they were on.
I think this
Oh,
story...
they knew what type of show they were on.
After reading this, going through this, trying to do it for the podcast, the story was good.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the execution was not.
Well, I do have a complaint about the story, which I'll get to in a little bit. But overall, yes. Once I understood what was actually happening,
Right.
Because it took me a while.
I did like the diversity of the cast.
Yeah.
And that
Yes,
it was
true.
just there.
I also, another positive, I felt the ship felt kind of lived in. Like, stuff was broken. We got 2 people kicking doors
Yes, you have to kick-
open.
that was great.
That's good stuff.
Right.
I mean, that's really good.
A blast blows open the airlock and the Daleks enter the station. Captain Jack yells for them to start firing. Mercer sets off a booby trap which destroys the first line of Daleks, making the others retreat and regroup. On the battlecruiser, Lytton and the Supreme Dalek argue about tactics and decide to go with Lytton's plan to use poison gas. One of his men throws a canister into the station, killing some of the guards. Mercer, Dr. Stiles, and a few other guards put on gas masks and retreat deeper into the cruiser as the Daleks re-enter the station. Mercer reaches the control room and tells everyone to evacuate. Osborn presses the button to destroy the prisoner, but it doesn't work. She goes to the cell to do it personally, but is killed by Lytton's men, who release the prisoner, Davros. Have we had one paragraph where someone has not died yet?
Oh, I just died.
But I do like how he went in there and didn't actually say time to evacuate. It was everyone for yourself.
Yes, every man for himself.
Yeah.
Really? That's a bit quick.
And it wasn't much of a reveal of Davros because you see
You
him
see in the
back
back.
there the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
time.
But that explosion with the docking bay, that was one of the loudest explosions they did on set. It was 4 times as loud as expected, and after that they sent a studio-wide memo having no more explosions like that.
It
they
did seem
ruined
like
it.
it was overkill with that explosion.
But yeah, the blown up Daleks were really cool. Like, in our current Doctor Who, the Daleks are such a formidable force that we never see them get
Yeah.
really
Messed up.
overtaken by another enemy. And based in this story, where later it's like these are Daleks not at the height of their power, but kind of at a trough of power. So I understand that, but it was really cool to see like how all the different Dalek debris and body parts and like the
We'll get more, yeah.
yeah,
The
like-
organicness comes out.
yeah, it's very, I guess, and especially with the weapon that the Daleks use, kind of Cronenberg, like all of the faces getting melted,
like
and-
bioweapons.
yeah, it's got a little body horror going on.
Yeah, totally. The gas mask that the Stiles and Mercer put on, it reminded me of the G.I. Joe figure, the Cobra Lamprey. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you would. He's the hydrofoil driver. I was
Yeah.
like, were they inspired by that gas mask? Because it's so similar.
Around the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah, 86 or 85.
I mean, I think that just there's a lot of stuff that was in the air, plastic toys and things were just being made. And
Man, that was really like synergistic. It was crazy.
I thought the Daleks looked really good, but you could still see it was almost like because some parts were really smooth, you could see some seams and duct tape. And I mean, it's ever since I was a kid, I always look at the shows to see. I wonder how they did that, and when you can see how they did it.
Right.
Sometimes you know how they did it, and you're like, oh, that's exciting, I can figure that out. And sometimes it's like, oh, that's what they did now. When we were talking about more classic episodes where they used bubble wrap was a new technology, so...
It was confusing why Daleks were working with humans.
Well, I think you're supposed to be.
But they didn't
Right.
really play it up that way, and they never really explained it. You kind of deduce what was going on.
Yes, yeah. But I think it seemed to me that their intent was it was supposed to be like, why are the Daleks working with humans? They just never really. The thing is we were privy to a lot of information the Doctor wasn't. So things the Doctor would have said didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah, so when the Daleks enter the docking bay, behind them are the humans with like helmets. That's new to this story.
Yes, I don't think we've seen that before.
Okay.
And okay, so maybe we're jumping ahead. Who are those people?
Which one? The ones with the helmets?
Like, yeah, there was that one head guy.
Lighten.
He's the tall one, the very tall.
Yeah.
And he ended up wearing the Darth Vader hat
Yeah.
towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So who are those group of humans, and what is their motivation?
Like you said, they're in league with the Daleks to help them get Davros.
But why?
I don't know the motivation.
It doesn't come out at some point.
I don't believe so.
From what they are all duplicates.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
I think you are right. I remember thinking something like that towards the end.
I always thought Lighten wasn't, but that makes sense what you just said.
Yeah.
Because he was a missionary, just for hire kind of thing, to get his job done. Mercenary.
Mercenary,
Sorry.
yeah.
Well, either or.
Same difference.
Sorry. And so I think in this, when the Daleks duplicate, they take all your essence, your mind, put it into another body that looks like yours, but they can control it. And they have to be there and keep putting the influence on it. And I think with Lighten, he was intelligent, and he is his own man. He's the head of his
become sort of
people.
like.
So the
Stein-
mission was, we go in, get Davros, get out. That's the mission, and that's what his whole upbringing and way of being was.
And he was.
And so he's kind of fighting that in his own way, going, this isn't the way it's supposed to go. Now you're changing the rules. We're doing it your way. And it's like, so I think in some way he's fighting that conditioning because he's such an individual,
Okay.
even before that. And so that transferred over.
Right. Okay.
So that's how I put it, that all those humans we see on the Dalek side
Right.
have already been duplicated. Because later on they mention that. That's their technology. They don't need help from humans.
I know, I was also confused, and I was even wondering if they were connected to the race that defeated the Daleks. Like, what's the name of that other race? I think it begins with
Movellans?
N.
Movellans.
Movellans, yes. Is there history to that we know of?
A little bit, because let me go back a little bit. The last time we saw the Daleks was with Tom Baker, and it was in Destiny of the Daleks, where the Movellans were fighting the Daleks. And then Terry Nation, the creator of the Daleks, there were some rights issues, and so Peter Davison, there was a time where they didn't think Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor would encounter the Daleks, and so the rights issues and everything got solved or settled, and then that's why it's called Resurrection of the Daleks, because they came back. And yeah, so this is almost like a continuation of that previous serial.
And do the Movellans look humanoid?
Yes, they're wearing like white.
Okay.
And
But
they're
I don't think that's what is happening after the rest of the story played out, but
It's like a small connection.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
and the Supreme Dalek wants Davros to cure them, to get a cure for the virus. Davros wants to wipe them out with the virus to create a better breed of Dalek.
Because these Daleks betrayed him. I mean, way back when with Sarah Jane.
Mhm.
You know, it's like he lost control of them. So he wants control of his creatures again. That's what he wants.
Okay.
And
He wants to be the Supreme Dalek.
Yeah, I get pieces of these things, but yeah.
thank you for settling them. Oh, we have to talk about those ray guns.
Which ones? The ones that are on the hand, or the ones
The
that
ones
are
that
like
the ones that the humans are firing.
Right.
In the
and-
docking bay?
Yes, and like the sound effects started happening, and it took me a while to connect the sound effects
Yeah.
to the
Like,
ray
is that
guns.
the sound of the gun?
Yeah, it's like
And they were miming the kickback of the gun.
yeah.
Because at first I thought it was like Dune, where it's like a sonic weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, there's a light there.
Yeah,
It gets much worse.
and I also wondered if it was like the technology to incorporate those sound effects and all the audio tracks together was still new, so like layering them properly was
You know what?
difficult.
It was probably edited all on video.
Okay.
And editing sound on video back then was very difficult. It wasn't like you could line things up and see it. A lot of video editing back then was on the fly.
Okay. Like as it's playing,
As
you're
it's
hitting
playing,
buttons to
yeah.
get it to.
And if you noticed, all of the laser beams you saw, the camera was locked down. So sometimes they would freeze the frame a little bit so it could shoot. So because nothing could be moving because that effect couldn't track
we've seen older episodes with Daleks, and the ray gun and the effect of like seeing the bones through
Yes,
the
the
skin
negative.
used to happen,
It's because it was optical.
That's
No.
negative.
right?
We haven't seen that
No.
the
Oh,
way
okay.
the way you're thinking, the better way you're thinking.
Yeah.
I think that happened with the Seventh Doctor,
Okay.
not before
Which would have
that.
been what?
Oh, that was
what
with
year?
That was like 87
Ace.
or
Oh, okay.
yeah, with Ace.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was later.
Because
Okay.
that was the first time they got it that good.
Okay, because I was very disappointed. And
Now
then-
remember that the original Star Wars trilogy has now been
It's all done.
out in theaters.
Yeah, it was 80.
Which they did do a lot to advance
Yeah.
the technology for this, but it's also even V was already
Right.
airing, I think, at this point, the
Maybe-
first
maybe.
miniseries, which did a lot better. But again,
It's
that's
money.
on film, not video, and that could be a
Yeah.
major reason why
Oh,
and
yeah.
how much money they're putting towards this.
Well, this is also a kid's show. I mean,
Is
It really feels like it on
Yeah.
these.
I mean-
the look of it,
but
how
it's
much money
got
they're
the
allowed to
budget
spend
of a
with
kid's
it.
show.
I believe it's a kid's show with the ray guns, but then with the biological weapons melting
Yeah.
people's faces, that's like I had to ask myself a couple times watching this. This is a kid's show, like
They commented that that was going to be more gruesome. They toned it down.
oh wow.
Yeah. Turlough explores the docked battlecruiser, and explores, and explores, and finally makes his way to the space station. Mercer and his group fight some of Lighton's men and change into their uniforms. They run into Turlough and interrogate him roughly. Meanwhile, Lighton explains to Davros what has happened the past 90 years. The Daleks suffered a major defeat at the hands of the Movelians, who had developed a chemical weapon designed to affect only Daleks. The Daleks' plan is to rescue Davros so he can develop a cure.
Have you noticed who we haven't talked much about at this point?
The Doctor.
Yes.
I kind of find that
A little typical.
yeah, because he's coming into something as opposed to him seeking out something.
That's how I feel about this whole episode. This whole 4-episode arc is like I kept waiting for him to do something. I guess we'll talk about that, but
It's just funny you mentioned the 4-episode arc. They combined it into 2 episodes.
oh, did they?
Two 45-minute
The
episodes.
DVD has it split into
Oh,
proper
I see.
4.
So if you watched it on the DVD, you got 4 episodes. We watched it on Amazon Prime. We only had 2. 2 45-minute
It's
episodes.
on Amazon Prime.
No, sorry,
Brit-
BritBox.
BritBox.
Oh, I always do that. Yeah, classics on BritBox. So we watched it on BritBox. It's 2 by 45
Still,
minutes.
like he
Which is
just
how they aired it.
Yes,
Yes.
that's how they aired it. Yeah,
Oh.
because the Sarajevo Olympics were on, so they didn't have the.
So they just combined them. And then the myth was that that's why the 45-minute format took over, because that's the modern
Yeah.
Who.
But no. And then I guess when it finally aired in the States on PBS, it was all messed up because they wanted to film it in the 4 by 30 minutes episodes, and all the audio was all screwed up and didn't match, and took a very long time for like clean copies to get created.
Yeah, we'll touch base on it more as we go along. But I was really surprised how little the Doctor had to do with anything, and I could not stand the question marks on his collar. It looked like that puffy paint thing that happened in the '80s that someone drew a question mark on it. My sister used to use. I don't really like this outfit very much, but at least everything was true. Like that's a cricket sweater. That's a shirt. These are striped pants. That jacket was weird and goofy, but also kind of slick, cool, like and oddly out of time. But the question mark looked like a kid's. Can I paint a question mark on your collar, Daddy, with my new puffy paint? Because no one ever says Doctor Who unless it's a joke. So like the whole Who part is only in writing. There's no reason to have a question mark. Anyway.
At the warehouse, Tegan screams a warning as a Dalek materializes. The Doctor orders everyone to aim for the eye stalk, which blinds them. They charge to the Dalek and throw it out a window, where it falls to the ground and explodes. Tegan suffers a head wound during the scuffle. They bring the destroyed Dalek back into the warehouse, but the Dalek inside isn't dead. It attacks 2 soldiers before they can kill it. Archer goes to the telephone for backup, but the remaining 2 policemen capture him.
That Dalek being pushed outside is
The old
quite
push the Dalek out of the second
The
floor
explosion.
door
Yeah.
trick.
Yeah.
The explosion was good though. I like that.
Kelsey and I watched the Dalek being pushed out twice because she couldn't believe that she thought the first time we watched it, she thought that the doctor was trying to stop the men from pushing the Dalek out, like trying to save or be like a more modern doctor. Like, no, we should talk to it first. So that when we watched it again and saw that he was gleefully pushing the Dalek out, we're like, oh, this is a very different doctor than who we're used to.
And the eye stalk can be destroyed where before, or our version of the modern Who,
Right.
it's not.
Right.
But it's still, in our modern Who, they say that's still the weak spot.
Yes, but it's now protected as opposed to these Daleks kind of being decaying.
Well, ours can also elevate, where this one didn't
Yeah.
get that yet. It's a whole R2 change.
Right.
You know?
Oh my goodness.
I was laughing when I was watching it because after Tegan is hurt, one of the people tried to help her and pull her away. What they're doing is like twisting her body into a weird kind of C formation, going, that can't be good. She just was injured. You got to keep her straight. And they're like bending her in a weird way to move her off.
Both her and Turlough look like they just came from a 1980s office party. Like, was she in that outfit for most of her companion career? No?
She changed outfits, which is nice. And I thought she looked fine. It definitely
Oh.
reminded me of the 80s.
Oh, it totally reminded me of the 80s, but she could barely run. She could barely walk, you know, in that skirt. And she was so coiffed. Anyway.
She started off as, the typical flight attendant uniform, and then as she progressed with her career on the show, it was always like more scantily clad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
Because it was the 80s.
Yes. She comments on that.
I think Amy, when we saw her in her first episode, like they kind of made fun of it. Like we
Right.
saw her kind of
Right.
do a short step over a
Hop
chain.
over.
Yes, because it's not a good adventure outfit.
Right.
But yes, she moved on from that. So I don't know. Maybe that was also pointing fun at some of the classic tropes. Was this also where they found the cat, or that's later?
And I'm
They're
surprised the
searching
cat
for it.
lived. It was now because before they killed it, they were looking and going, oh, there's nothing here. Oh, I guess he's gone away. And they turn around and there's a guy with it on his face. So it's like,
There's a lot of like fill in the gap editing going on here.
Yeah.
Like Tegan gets a cut on her head. Like when? Turlough disappears in the time corridor. When?
Yeah.
Davros says he needs an engineer to fix his chair. They send a technician, Kiston, and as he works on the chair, Davros infects him, thereby controlling his mind. Davros and Lighton argue about whether Davros should do his research on the battlecruiser or the space station. The Supreme Dalek agrees to Davros's demand to stay on the station and sends 2 Daleks to escort Davros to Dr. Stiles' laboratory.
this is another part of the writing where they're giving you too much information and don't follow up with it. Because the Supreme Dalek is saying, I have a plan for Davros to want to leave the ship of his own free will, so go ahead, let him stay, and we'll do that later. And it never comes up.
I like Kiston's character, this technician, because when he's working on Davros before he's controlled, he's, you know, a bumbling kind of scared, but kind of like he does some things that Davros reacts to. He's like, oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
But then after he's made
mind controlled,
zombified or
yeah.
mind controlled, after he's mind controlled, like I enjoy the actors and actresses that can play multiple kinds of characters. And I think he did a really good job at being very human and then being kind of not human and some things in
I
between.
will say the same thing about Stein. Like, I was like, who is this guy that they got? You know, man, he had this little stutter, which was fine. He was doing a fine job, but it was almost like, well, good thing they got a guy who couldn't really act to play a guy who couldn't really stand up for himself. And then the change that he actually had was quite significant, and then I was almost buying the earring.
And I thought Kiston was a good actor in fiddling with things. I thought he did really well going, yeah, we do this, we mix this,
We
go
plays
over,
the
get the
violin.
screw, do all
Yeah.
of that thing. And it's like, yeah,
It was, some people are mind controlled, some people are duplicated. The duplicates follow orders, but sometimes they don't. It was...
I couldn't keep it.
that's the difference between the Supreme Dalek and those Daleks and Davros.
Right.
The Daleks don't want anything to do with the humans, but they duplicate them so that they're their own creations.
Right.
And it's like, no, we don't need any help. This is our own thing.
Right.
And Davros is all more with the mind and the mind
to
control.
rule everyone.
And- right. So that's the difference between where those come from.
Right.
Basically the same thing, but
Yeah.
coming
I
from
get
different
it, but
angles.
it's different enough. It's just, when you don't know that yet, because things haven't been revealed, it's just like, it's confusing.
And even when you do.
And even when you do.
Yes. I mean, if they could paint them different, where one's red and one's gray or something.
I wish, but
Then at least you can
Yeah.
tell which ones they're talking about.
And I don't know if the same actor portrays Davros throughout the show, but it's always fun to see
He's
Davros
great.
go from zero,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
villainy, just scheming, to full on shouting and yelling. And he has the same arc every
yeah,
speech.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, this is Terry Malloy playing Davros. This is his first time, and I think he plays Davros from here on out
Okay.
in the classic. Who?
So it's not the same actor
It's not
that
the
was today,
original
I guess,
one. Yeah, Michael Wisher, I believe.
And I think it's in this part, maybe a little later on, but Davros is really intrigued about the war. And just, he can see it. I mean, because like, no, his Daleks are his creation, he wants to win, but he also sees some of the stuff going on and sees it intellectually stimulating. And that goes back to the first time we saw Genesis of, if I had a vial to destroy them, would I do it or not? Just the intellectual, yes, I got to find out what happens. How would this work? So I thought at least that continued as a characterization of the character, Davros.
It's funny, as ridiculous as that prosthetic mask is, it always works for me. There's something about the sculpt and the way the actors do it and the fact that it's the real mouth. I always buy it, and somehow they get a good performance out of a face that isn't really moving.
The Doctor and Stein go back to the TARDIS so they can use it to find the Dalek's location. Meanwhile, Colonel Archer and the other men attacked by the Dalek return to the warehouse. Tegan notices that Colonel Archer is now wearing a gun, but remembers that he gave his gun to the Doctor and says that these are not the same people. Archer says that anyone who tries to leave the warehouse will be shot. More Daleks use the time corridor and begin to arrive in the warehouse. The TARDIS materializes inside the battlecruiser, and the Doctor and Stein run into one of Lighton's men. Stein pulls a gun on the Doctor and confesses he is a Dalek agent. And this is the end. This is the first episode's end when you're
When you do
watching the
two.
two-parter.
Oh, you watch
So it's a
the
good cliffhanger.
It is.
So it's
Yeah.
halfway through the story.
It's so funny. Again, this is rampant through Doctor Who, somewhat in the Russell Davies incarnation, but like how military people have no military demeanor whatsoever when they carry their guns, when they grab their guns, when they run.
It's British people. They don't know what to do with guns.
But man, were they relaxed when they were having tea?
Yeah.
And pouring their tea.
Everything's better.
Oh my god.
This really starts getting confusing as to which Daleks are going where.
Yeah.
It's like, which ones are
Yeah.
coming down?
Yeah. They're all the same color.
I stopped
And
caring.
And the Doctor's trying to get to the ship, but then the Daleks up there say, "Oh, there's, bring the Doctor up here." And then, so it's like, did he transport himself in the TARDIS, or did they hook onto the TARDIS and bring it up? It's like both of those were said to be done.
Yeah,
And
because
it's
then the
got me
TARDIS was
confused.
up there, and at one point I thought, oh, did I miss when they went there?
I mean, the Doctor is going there to try and find out where the Dalek ship was, and the Dalek said, "Oh, the Doctor's down there. Bring the TARDIS to us by the time corridor." So it was like both were happening.
I know it hasn't happened yet, but I do love that moment when Turlough says, "Oh, the Doctor's on the ship," and Tegan's like, "Yeah, the TARDIS is right there."
Right.
I find it funny that the gun that Stein pulls is just a MAC-10, which is a normal gun that we would find in...
Yeah, and he pulls it out of it's on the spaceship.
Yeah, it has a silencer. It's not that like weird light gun that they have throughout the whole
Yeah,
thing. I'm like,
I thought it
was
was
odd.
the pistol, the automatic pistol, similar to the one that they had earlier. The police
Oh.
officers, the people dressed
Yeah.
as police
Oh.
officers.
it's like that, but it's a little larger than that because
Okay.
that's a pistol. This one is a machine. It's like it's just larger.
Okay.
Just trust me.
It was just odd that
I believe it.
that was the gun he had on
Yeah.
the battle cruiser spaceship.
Oh, maybe. Oh, wait. Maybe that makes sense because that's where Lighton's men were supposed to. That's where they got all their weapons to go down. and,
That's what I was thinking.
there you go. There. That's it.
Because he knew where to go.
Right.
Because that showed that he was, knowing the Dalek ship, the battlecruiser.
I just find it funny that's like in a secret panel or something. It's opposed to an armory.
Well, I thought it was kind of an armory. It's like they were all lined up. It didn't seem a secret panel. He knew where it was. Everybody
Well,
seemed to
y-
know.
he would know.
This is where you keep those type of weapons.
I just
The
find it
fourth
funny.
wall on the other side, you would have seen, oh, this is an armory.
Oh, but that fourth wall's broken.
So then Stein is a duplicate. All the prisoners that were running duplicates.
See, I took that later on as he was implanted to kind of
Yeah.
get them.
To get the doctor to
No.
be on there to win the doctor's trust.
Kind of. Like
Okay.
he's with an escaping group of real humans. He's kind of like their mole.
Yeah.
That's how I took it.
Right.
Okay. But he was on the prison ship.
Because that's why Lighton said, we need those prisoners or specimens.
Right.
So those were real humans, not duplicated yet.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was involved in that somehow, and so he was undercover.
Because I think what I'm getting confused, the prison space station was just for Davros, not for anybody that they called prisoners.
Correct.
in the show.
Stein and that other guy he was running with before were just some people, right?
They were from the battle cruiser.
The
Daleks.
Daleks battle cruiser.
Right.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was before they reached the space station, which had Davros.
As a prisoner, but the
Sole
only
prisoner.
prisoner. All
Yeah.
right.
Auburn, you're getting confused because you're trying to figure this episode
Right.
out.
Yeah.
I think I can.
And the albino's working for the
For
dwarf.
the dwarf, yeah.
Boy.
They take the doctor to be duplicated. Stein secures the doctor
The
to
doctor's in this?
Stein secures the doctor to a medical bed and begins the process. The Daleks want to use the duplicates of the Doctor and his companions to go to Gallifrey and kill the Time Lords. The Doctor discovers that Stein is a duplicate and that he is fighting the Dalek programming. Becoming confused, the Doctor begs him to stop, and Stein breaks free of the programming and releases the Doctor.
You're stuttering now. You're good.
Remember your amendments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
British Constitution? Question
No.
mark? Okay.
Because British Constitution is not written down.
Remember in The Deadly Assassin, they had a president and they had a constitution with amendments on Gallifrey.
So what
Well, why would-
constitution
why
was-
would Stein know them?
I'm just saying that
Oh.
they're using non-British things to make it seem alien
Oh,
to
no.
them.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a future guy. He's not a British guy. He's in the
Okay.
future. So I do have to say, I'm pretty sure we've seen it already. The Doctor with a gun, I still can't stand.
Yeah,
Well,
he's shooting the Dalek on the ground.
I liked and also thought was ridiculous how they tried to put in how he doesn't like guns by having him hold them daintily like he doesn't want to touch it, but then he'd grab it and start shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like they were trying to remember to keep that stuff in there, but in these harsh times it just has to happen. The way I kind of let myself accept it was like, well, the War Doctor hasn't happened yet, so I almost feel like that's what made him totally against guns.
Thank you. That's great.
Because before that, throughout the classic Who, sometimes he did use a gun, sometimes he didn't, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until he caused a mass extinction that he was never going to use a gun again.
That's great. I don't know who this War Doctor is that you refer to.
Right.
But that's good. I kind of like that.
Well, and I like the Daleks' plan of duplicating the Doctor to go assassinate the Council. Like, that's a really good plan.
Make that the story.
Yeah.
It's like it's
Would've been a
mentioned
good
and that's
story.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also, I didn't mention this at the time, but when Turlough's doing his investigating, he discovers the room with the bubble wrap.
Yes.
No, not bubble wrap.
I liked it when the Doctor is trying to convince Stein, like, get out of your programming. Yeah, I just remember the Doctor on the bed trying to be converted in that process, having some good lines toward Stein. And then, like Brian mentioned, that the stuff about reciting the amendments, remembering your logical stuff
No, to me, it would be more effective
as
in
a
fight.
tool
Yeah,
for this
Stein
programming.
to fight, focus on something like that. Instead of like remember your humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a not a concrete
Yeah.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
but remember the amendments to the
The
Constitution.
other day I was thinking about my humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Not that it wouldn't work, but I was just a little pointed.
You have to-
Well, there's also that part of me that's like, I want to know what Constitution you're talking about, and I want to know what these amendments are.
But you're right. He has to think of things that would evoke his humanity. You can't
Yes.
just think of an abstract construct.
Yeah,
like that.
it's like, remember, what's the First Amendment? Tell me what the First Amendment is. And he does say that, doesn't he? Doesn't he say what's
Yeah.
the First Amendment is very
Yeah, he does.
important?
Mm-hmm. So that like little character moment of the Doctor I found nice in this weird, confusing
that
episode.
Whole scene, he was being the Doctor, but
Yeah.
it took that long.
The third episode,
Yeah.
Yeah.
according to the DVD and
Yeah.
repeat broadcasts.
Mercer's group find the chamber housing the station's self-destruct device. They are seen on the security cameras, and the Supreme Daleks tells Lighton to eliminate them before they can destroy the station. Dr. Stiles attempts to figure out the device, while Turlough and Mercer leave to see if they can clear a path to the time corridor, allowing their group to escape the blast. Dr. Stiles sees Lighton and his men approaching, so she barricades the door while setting the auto-destruct. I have a big problem with this. Hi, I'm the doctor. Not the doctor. Hi, I'm the medical officer of this ship, and you're the bridge officer of this ship. So I'll figure out the self-destruct device, and you go away. I like the character. It's a good moment of strength for the character, but it's not logical.
Yeah.
It's like, he's a bridge officer. He's worked with this kind of stuff. You haven't at that
She's
point.
higher on the call sheet for the day.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she
Yes.
gets to
Yeah.
fix everything.
Exactly.
It was a lot of time spent in there trying to figure out how to make it work.
A lot of flipping the switches.
Yeah, and it was fun. The props were fun. Things like opened and they went through a wall, right? Or that happens later.
Yeah, they
Later.
open the wall to get I don't know how much stuff to barricade the door. She's like, at first when she tells them to barricade the door, I was like, with what? And then they cut back and they used a piece of the wall, and now everything they get is coming from behind the wall. I was waiting for a piano to come out.
On Earth, Tegan and Laird, a scientist from the original bomb squad,
Remember them?
try using the cylinders as the old fake body under the covers trick, so they can escape.
And of course, they mat it down so neatly. Like they're trying to make it look like a body, so they flatten it out as much as possible.
Laird tells Tegan to leave and get help while she stays behind to buy her time. Colonel Archer comes back and sees that Tegan has escaped. Outside, Tegan runs toward a bystander, but the two policemen follow, kill him, and capture Tegan. They bring her back to the warehouse. Laird tries to escape and is killed.
They kill the guy who didn't even notice them.
He's just searching for metal.
He didn't even hear kill all witnesses, especially that guy who didn't witness us.
Well, by the way, literally the only other person in London.
On a dock.
That's weak writing right there when the only people in the story are essential to your plot.
And I think this was also where Tegan and Laird pick up the canister, and they comment on how light it is, how lightweight it is. Is that because the virus is gone, or because they're really that lightweight?
Maybe because they thought it was a bomb.
Right.
They thought they were bombs, but it's just a canister filled with vapor.
Right. Oh, I only say this because they made a point of how light it was, and then later when they transport one up to the ship, it takes two of the Dalek people hoisting it up. It looks like it takes a lot of effort for them. And I mean,
they
that's
don't want to
nitpick.
open it because
Yes.
the Daleks are there and it'll
Yes.
hurt them, so they have to do it more carefully, even though it's
Maybe.
light.
Of course, it's just one of the why even make the mention
Yeah.
earlier? Because then it's in my head.
The
I
only-
think what
Look
Josh was
for
saying
it.
was right. It's like it's not a bomb.
And the thing I thought of was it's a prop. It's light.
Yes.
So then the way they're behaving with it, they're like, oh, write that in. That.
Yeah.
Plastics.
I got one word
future.
for you.
And also, they shoot the bystander, and then Tegan's down the
Like the dog.
the dock,
The
the
stairs.
dock area. So literally, she could have jumped into the Thames to escape.
I was waiting for her to jump in the water.
But you know what I'm thinking?
She can't swim in that skirt.
No, no. I think she had a better chance of living with the Daleks than swimming in the Thames.
But then Laird goes freaky and starts screaming and runs. Why?
Which one's Laird?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Her
The
dad.
The,
female-
the woman that helped kind of mend Tegan while she got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And
She's
just
She's
there
like,
for
she's
no
like,
reason.
where's the
other than
ambulance?
to-
Where's the ambulance?
Where's the ambulance and do you want tea?
Right.
We can't pay her for the 4th episode, so we need to, kill her.
Right.
Just in my own head as your final desperate move that maybe you become so chaotic that even if they do shoot you, you play dead. You scream and run and maybe they shoot you, then you play dead immediately. So that way they're like, okay, we took care of her, and then she walked away later.
Okay. She took some of the Dalek scrap that was around, put it on her back in that big overcoat, so that when she got shot, it just ding.
Yes.
Oh, I'm screaming and falling. Okay.
I think that's canon now. Thank
There
you.
we go.
The Daleks order Davros to find the cure, but he tells them that he needs 2 Dalek specimens. When the Supreme Dalek orders 2 of them to be his guinea pigs, Davros injects them and they become his mind-controlled servants. He orders them to obtain a sample of the Movellan virus, which is what is inside the cylinders on Earth.
This injection is just like this light prop. I'm like, what is this?
Was the idea of injection from the subtitles or the script? Because I didn't need it to be
Like a syringe?
Like a light mind control thing is fine for me. I don't need it to be injecting anybody.
Because I was laughing. It's like the ultimate syringe can
Yeah.
mind control any species,
Yes.
any people.
Well, at this point,
Like
I mean,
that
it's a magic
formula
wand,
is
but
a
it lights
universal
up.
formula.
So it's
But
good.
it lights
well,
up.
I like
yeah.
how when they lift up the
That's later.
you know, and he,
That's
he's
great.
tasting the turkey.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
We'll get to that.
Can you imagine being a 10-year-old kid and you see that? Oh, that would have been great. He opens up his head. He opens up his head.
Yeah, I mean that would be, I'm sure, a toy or an idea. You know, if you watch this
Yeah.
story and then
Yeah.
you're playing with your friends, like, no, I'm mind controlling
Get
you.
your mom's
no,
perfume bottle turned
Yeah.
upside down.
I obey.
Yeah.
Turlough and Mercer see that the time corridor is heavily guarded and head back to the auto-destruct room, realizing that Lighton's troops are trying to stop the destruction of the station because Davros must still be on board. They search and find him in Dr. Styles' lab. Meanwhile, Dr. Styles finishes setting up the auto-destruct, but before she can activate it, Lighton breaks in and kills her. He then deactivates the device. Turlough and Mercer can't do anything to help, so they plan to go back to Earth by way of the corridor to find the Doctor.
The only reason to have Turlough and Mercer go look for that corridor was so they don't die in that scene later on. The scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's sort of, they go, well, check on that, see if we can reach the corridor. Well, we can, it's blocked, we can't. Okay, we gotta go back over here. Oh, we gotta go here. By the time we get back, oh, they're dead. Let's go back. We saved ourselves.
It also kind of shows the duality of Turlough that I felt was gone. And I don't know why they brought that back. Like, he's kind of like the devil on the shoulder of Mercer at points, I thought. Or I felt.
Well, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we missed something earlier. I think we did. When they're beginning to duplicate the Doctor, we see all the companions.
Oh, in the
and,
room.
and
Right.
him.
Oh,
We
yeah.
and the Doctor too, which is really cool. And I don't think they did that very much in the classic series. And the first scene, he goes back, and it stops at Pertwee.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts away. And I thought at that point, I'm like, well, that's all they're going to show, because if they go back any further, it'd have to be in black and white. And they don't want to do that from his memories because they've already established color. And then a few seconds later, they shoot back and show Hartnell and Troughton and all those companions, and they're in black and white. So it's like, as your memories get older, they go to black and white.
Yeah,
But I loved that.
Yeah, I
thought
forgot.
That was great.
I forgot I just rolled by that. It was crazy because that was a great moment.
Yeah,
to see
and then
that.
I didn't catch it, but they are leaving the room, and the Doctor has a gun, and he specifically turns and fires, and he shoots the tape that contains his memories.
Yeah,
So the Doctor's blowing up memories of himself, and it's like, I thought you'd jump in.
No.
Oh.
Go continue.
But he blows up a tape of his own memories, which is brilliant because now the Daleks don't have it.
And that goes back to what you mentioned earlier about Genesis of the Daleks, where Davros wants those memories and that information.
You could have just put a magnet near it because it was tape.
Tape.
You didn't need a magnet, you just need to pull the tape.
That's
just
true.
run with it out into the corridor,
Right.
and that's it, you're done.
Yeah, just like Snake Plissken at the end of Escape from New York.
But if the Daleks had a pencil, they could twist it back.
That's true.
And rewind time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Their other arm, not their plunger arm, but the other arm is almost like,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
like
They
a
could
little,
stick it in there and
yeah.
turn.
It's like it's a beater, so you just rotate it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Could you push the button on my side? Push the
Oh, there
button
was
on my
one
side.
moment where one of the Daleks used his plunger to pin some guy against the
Yeah.
wall. Is
He,
the
he
Doctor?
pins the Doctor up against the wall.
I kind of like that. I think that was the first time I've ever seen a plunger touch someone like that.
Yeah, and it's just, I just want the Dalek to be like, "Who's the tough guy now?"
And the Doctor say, "Oh, where's that thing been?"
Not in the Thames.
Alright.
Kiston informs Davros that the station destruction has been halted, and Davros orders the Doctor to be brought to him. Tegan uses the time corridor to get to the ship and runs into Turlough and Mercer. She tells them that the Doctor is on board. They search and find him in the duplication room tying up the guards. Stein tells them that the cylinders contain the Morvellan virus. They search and find him in the duplication room tying up the guards. Stein tells them that the cylinders contain the Morvellan virus. Unfortunately, the bomb squad members are now duplicates, who are there to secure the virus and keep anyone away. The group returns to where the Doctor parked the Tardis aboard the space station. By the way, do you love the fact that they keep using this time corridor and searching for the entrance to the time corridor, and we never see
Yeah.
the time corridor? Which, okay.
But no, they find it. I mean, the Doctor shows up at one point, and the Daleks come down.
Oh, that's right.
So
Oh,
they
yeah,
do
you're
show
right.
where it is,
There's
but
just I'm
it's
expecting
an
a door.
entry point
Oh yeah, they
You're right.
that you're
might-
going to go to.
Cut that.
So you'd have to just kind of feel, there it is, and you can
right.
go.
Right.
Sorry, you're completely right, and I'm completely wrong.
Keep that.
But they do.
Play that over
They
and
do
over.
never say time corridor when we see that image.
That one I get, though, but so I'm not that...
I'm just saying. It's a lot
But that's why
of
you can't find it, because it's not an actual,
It's not an actual thing.
transporter
It's not a corridor.
place you step. It's not a corridor, doorway, or anything.
Right.
It's just the entrance is around here because it's coming through time.
American
But what I
ship.
didn't understand is how Tegan got on the ship. And Brian said the other night the Daleks forced her through the time corridor to get up the ship, and they're staying down below to handle what they have to handle. I thought, you'd be escorting her. Why would you put the enemy on that ship? And there's nobody there to greet her. The only people that turned out to be greeting her was Turlough and someone who's going to kill her.
It was their Daleks at their lowest
Right.
point. They weren't that smart.
Well, they follow orders, and that was our order.
Right.
She's there. Ours is not to question why.
Ours is just to exterminate.
We also saw duplicates of the companions. I don't know if that
Right.
was here earlier or later.
It was earlier.
Earlier.
Yeah, it was when he was the whole amendment
Right.
scene.
And they were able to do that duplication without having them physically there.
Yeah,
Well, they've
that
been
was
watching...
I think
I thought
I
that
took
was-
that. I mean, I thought the same thing, but then I was like,
Yeah.
well, I guess they can duplicate the bodies. They just need the mind for the consciousness.
Okay.
They have the pattern
Yeah.
from the time corridor.
And it doesn't seem that it takes them long because Archer was done by the
Right,
time they were
yeah.
able to go
Yeah,
out.
that's
for,
true. Because
and
part
come
of me
back.
thought, like, how long does it take to duplicate these people? All those soldiers that
Yeah.
just came back. But then why didn't we see? It would have been very easy to see a duplicate of the Doctor in one of those drawers as well.
They should have.
Yeah.
Maybe humans are quicker to duplicate and Gallifreyans
No, I think
take
they just.
longer.
It was easier not to do a trickery.
Yeah.
These are all his companions. Lie down.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't in the scene.
actors.
Yeah.
So just.
Oh,
there
you know
it
why?
is.
Because they weren't planning on duplicating him. They were taking his they were taking his brainwaves to put into Davros.
So it would have been cool
Yeah,
to
it's gonna be the
see-
Doctor and his companions going to Gallifrey.
They could have showed all three of them laying in
Right,
the duplicate
right.
wall and say, "But Doctor, we need your brains,
Right.
so that's why
Right.
we're doing this."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
I
why
just-
they didn't kill Tegan when she was out with the bystander at
Right.
the ocean.
Right.
They need.
Oh, that I
They
knew.
want her because they need to duplicate.
Yeah, because they needed to finish Whatever.
Okay.
The Doctor plans to kill Davros and tells Turlough and Tegan to wait for him, but leave if the Daleks attack. The Supreme Dalek realizes that Davros has taken control of two of his Daleks and orders Lighton to destroy them and Davros, who is too unstable to live. The Doctor reaches the laboratory and confronts Davros. Mercer hands the Doctor his weapon, who points it at Davros. Davros says he is trying to change the Daleks for the better and asks the Doctor to join him to command a new Dalek army. Mercer and Stein fight some of Lighton's men and Mercer is killed. The Dalek conditioning is taking hold of Stein again, so he runs away before he can hurt the Doctor. Davros barricades himself inside the lab.
These death scenes are getting worse as we go along.
They're
I mean,
running
even
out of money.
Stein. Oh, I got hit. Oh, ow, ow. Oh,
like-
no, I'm going to hurt you. Okay, I'm going to run away. It's like, whoa, that was a quick
He like bounces back at one point on the wall onto the console. I'm like, what is going on here?
I love the fact that the Doctor references Genesis of the Daleks here. And he says that his action, and if you remember, Genesis of the Daleks is where the fourth Doctor contemplates blowing the original Daleks up so that they never become a threat to anybody. And he says, do I have the right to do that? And Sarah Jane's going, yes, blow them up. And he can't. Here he says that's a mistake. And I just find it interesting because they always, not they, people when talking about Doctor Who use Genesis of the Daleks as like a touchstone. So they always show this is the epitome of Doctor Who, where the Doctor is torn. Does he have the right to do this? Can he do this? And he just, at the end, he does choose not to destroy. He does choose life. But then the very next Doctor is like, well, that was the wrong thing to do. I don't think it works as well as Genesis of the Daleks, but I do think it's an interesting take where it's like, no, I'm going to take a gun and I'm going to blow Davros's brains out. No, he doesn't, but it's just... well, we've moved on.
Right.
We're in the Reagan era now. Thatcher, yeah.
Speaking of the brains, when the Daleks were being converted to mind control for Davros, the actor doing that, he's like, ugh. I'm like, what is it in there? Is it stinky? Is it gross? Like, what's going on?
Kiston, right?
Yeah, it just
It is
makes
good.
it just makes me laugh. He does it for both Daleks.
I also like there's a little scene of Davros watching the Doctor come by and go, so is this what the Doctor is? Is this guy the Doctor? It's like, not as really a questioning, but just, because knowing that the Doctor does regenerate. So it's like, is
yeah,
this
he says
going to be
this.
this is
Yeah,
what
what
I'm
does
doing
he
with
say?
that.
That must be the Doctor. I think he says something.
Something like, is
Something
this
like
one
that.
the Doctor? But it was more of, so this is what he looks like now. This
Yeah,
is
but I really got
who
a
he is
kick out
now.
of that because it really touched on the lore.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good little bit to add in.
But he knew, he still knew. And
Right.
when he mentioned that I've been in cryogenic sleep for 90
19 years.
19 or 90?
19.
Sometimes it sounds like 90 and sometimes it sounds like 19, but I'm pretty sure the closed caption said 19.
Oh, okay. I
And
thought
just, he was awake during that time. And that's what got
That's
me.
right.
But I thought,
For 19
he
years.
hasn't,
Yeah.
he still seems just as insane as ever. I mean, I thought after 19 years he'd be a little bit worse.
Yeah,
Because I thought they're way, way, way in the future.
I think it is 90 years. 90 years.
Is it?
I
And
think
then
so.
the closed captions are wrong because closed captions are terrible on this.
I know what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I think it is 90 years though.
I do like how Davros tries to convince the Doctor that he's doing good. Oh, I'm trying to make the Daleks more emotional, to see it, make them, maybe not be compassionate, but to be able to access emotion, to understand what compassion is. And the Doctor sees right through it going, yes, so they'll be more efficient killers. They'll be able to use that as a weakness against them. And when that doesn't work, then you've got Davros just yelling at the Doctor saying, you're a coward. I have the courage to actually take action. You just don't, The universe requires action and you never do it. You're a coward. It's like, good for you, Davros.
And still the Doctor doesn't shoot. It's
Yeah,
like,
nothing comes of it.
come on, Doctor, you have it right there. But then the distraction. Oh, there are people outside. Go handle it. And then he gets locked out. It's like he goes outside and gets locked out of the room.
Wow.
There was one part I missed. I wanted to say, but I don't know if we need to. But just as a fun part, when the beginning of part two for us, I guess part 3 for the others, when they picked it up again after the Doctor was on the battle cruiser, the Daleks show up and they're all saying exterminate 20 times or so. I'm exaggerating, but it's exterminate the Doctor, exterminate the Doctor. It's like, shoot already. They said it so many times, and that's when Lighton comes. Wait, we need to duplicate him first and check the Supreme Dalek. Oh, okay. I guess we're not going to be exterminating today.
I'm glad you brought that up because then that reminded me of the thing where the Daleks have this like mental connection because you hear a sound cue, a music, not a music cue, but a sound effect, like telepathy
They're
to the other
getting orders
Daleks.
from the Supreme Dalek?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught that.
Wi-Fi?
Something. It's just something like, but the Dalek goes away from the rest of the group,
Right.
like, and then you hear that sound like he's conversing, and he goes, "You are correct."
The Doctor secretly pre-programmed the TARDIS to return to Earth. Tegan and Turlough leave the TARDIS and enter the warehouse to search for the virus cylinders. Davros gives the virus to one of his human slaves and tells him to release it on the battlecruiser. The Davros Daleks are in the warehouse, searching for the TARDIS, and are fired upon by Colonel Archer. They kill him and his men. The Supreme Dalek sends his Daleks down to Earth to destroy the warehouse and fight the Davros Daleks. Exterminate to the right of them, exterminate to the left of them, exterminate in front of them, row the 600. Daleks killing Daleks, Supreme Humans killing Davros humans. It's a madhouse.
Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria,
There's a lot of killing.
And confusion and
pyrotechnics.
And even confusion, I think, what kind of Dalek are you? So I need to exterminate you?
Wait,
Who do
friendly.
you serve?
They're like friendly, flash, thunder.
And the Doctor pre-programming the TARDIS, like, wait a minute, we don't have a choice in this. He just made it look like we had a choice. So they could send it down. I did like the little banter between Tegan and Turlough, where she goes out going, okay, well, we have to go into the warehouse and at least get a cylinder. And he's like, what's the point? Why are you even doing it? What's your plan? Just, I don't have a plan. I don't know. I just know that we have options then if we have the cylinder. The doctor may use it. He came back here. Do this. Is like, I don't know, but at least we have it rather than needing it later on.
I do have to say, I finally have watched an episode where I like Tegan. I like Tegan a lot in this, and maybe it's because the actress is playing it as she's done, and she just can't handle this anymore. And it's like, you've done this before. You know what just do it.
So what is what has been your problem with Tegan and other episodes?
With the Fifth Doctor, I just find the episodes boring.
Okay.
It's weird.
Did they not know how to write her? They didn't know
I don't know.
what her character was going to be?
It's because the way she's introduced into the team, Team Tardis, is that she gets into a car accident, I think on her way to work or to drop off her aunt at the airport. And she goes into the police box thinking it's a real police box. And then so she's an accidental companion.
And then they spend half her time on the TARDIS trying to get her back to her time. But they wind up, not every single episode, but it's like, here you go, Tegan, we're going to take you back to modern day Britain. Oops, we're on Menovelius 5, And I think that, for me, is a little annoying. But Tegan's very popular.
The Doctor uses the time corridor to get back to Earth and meets his companions back in the TARDIS, where Tegan shows him one of the cylinders. The Doctor opens it and places the leaking cylinder in the warehouse. The Daleks begin to foam as they are infected by the poison and die. Lytton sees that they lost and leaves. He joins up with the two duplicate policemen outside, and they all walk away into the sunset.
Do, nothing to see here. Do. Dying, foaming Daleks are like a bunch of drunken sailors.
It's like shaving cream coming out of all
Do you
their
remember
vents.
Crazy Foam?
Yes.
I think that's what that was.
Well, that's just shaving cream.
I thought it was shaving cream.
Well,
It had a crazy foam kind of
like shot out more.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. More of a
It
stream.
came, I guess the operator
It was
inside.
soap, right? It was like stuff you played with in the bath.
Yeah, it was soap.
Yeah.
And it had the different colors. So
Had
it
the
had the
different
pinks
color-
and the
yeah,
blues.
yeah.
I can't imagine being a Dalek operator with all of that, like you doing that and then getting out of the Dalek.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my goodness.
Well, you'd be very clean by the end.
My notes don't go along with our synopsis because the way that they edit this show was one line of dialogue would be over here with the doctor, then they'd cut over to Davros doing something, then they cut over to Tegan, then they cut over to this, and then they just have one person dying over here for no other reason. And trying to organize it all was a little bit difficult. So I have things out of order when I'm taking the notes, rewatching it. But one thing I wanted to bring up was when Davros was saying, I'm trying to better the Daleks and join me and be in command of a new Dalek army. And the Doctor says, to be honest, I wouldn't know what to do with an army. And I'm just thinking, nowadays, you will. Because what's going on with this season that we're currently in, and what goes on in some other ones with Matt Smith as a Doctor, he knows what to do with an army. So I just think it's interesting how the Doctor has changed so much, and it's like, especially looking at this episode during the Matt Smith era, I think it was a good choice just to show that part of it. I wouldn't know how to deal with an army.
So another reason for doing this episode in the first Matt Smith season is that we didn't like Victory of the Daleks so much. And then this is another case where the Daleks are using human duplicates or human insurgents, like they did with Bracewell in World War II.
That's why you picked this.
Well, it's interesting that, he says he wouldn't know what to do with an army, but, a few minutes later, he's using biological weapons to commit genocide.
True.
So, yeah, with a bunch of soldiers, yeah.
Who are all badly dying. This is the classic joke.
Well, there was some guys who would stand there shaking, and I assumed they were told you're going to have a special effect around you, and it was going
Yeah.
to.
And they didn't have the negative. They didn't have the effect.
anything at all. So you just see a guy going, "Ah," and then dropping to the ground.
Back in
The thing is, they didn't drop. They went slowly
yeah.
down to the ground.
They didn't really yell this, but whatever they yelled was implying like, take cover, walk straight backwards. Like there was no ducking behind anything.
I think my favorite in it being the worst is when Stein is with I think the other guards, and there's there's two, Stein and the other guy, and then there's two other guys, and they're in a corridor and they're having a standoff and they shoot each other one by one to the death.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is bad.
Your turn.
And they didn't even put in the effect of the laser,
Yeah,
so it was just like,
Yeah, they're doing
wow.
nothing at this point.
Yeah.
Literally, the producers are like, aren't we filming the next episode?
That'd be funny. They all fall down and they're like, is that good? And they're like, they're setting up another shot. Oh, okay.
Yeah, cut. We're good.
The kids will love it. Print. Davros is captured by the Daleks, but uses the poison to kill them. He forgot that he is essentially the same race as the Daleks, so the poison affects him as well. Inside the TARDIS, Tegan looks away from the monitor showing the carnage. The Supreme Dalek appears on the monitor and tells the Doctor that his duplicates are already in place to take over the Earth. On the space station, Stein goes to the auto-destruct room to reactivate the system. He is shot by Daleks, but manages to activate the device before he dies. The station blows up, taking the battlecruiser and the Supreme Dalek with it.
So isn't Davros supposed to be some sort of genius scientist? Can't figure out that.
He was having a bad day.
He's still groggy from the cryo sleep.
So, but
Oh no, I'm a Kaled too.
But apparently, like, it really was played out like that. Davros was destroyed. So
Yeah, but it
But-
always is.
But they did have that one scene of Davros going to the wall and going, "Is my secret emergency
My pod. My escape pod's
pod
ready."
Ready." And the door opens up. Yes, and it closes.
Oh.
Okay, so he has a way out.
I
Got
didn't
it.
get that.
When I saw that, it reminded me of that old, I think it's a Chuck Jones or Tom and Jerry short where it's the refrigerator. He opens it to make sure it's the lights on. And then that's what it reminded me of,
Yeah.
like Davros looking in. He's like, is it there? Open slowly. Yes, it's still there. Close.
So he has an escape pod
Okay, I didn't
And
catch
I-
built
and
somehow in the lab. That's why he wanted to go to the lab
that where he
and
was
build that.
cryogenically frozen.
And the Supreme Dalek literally calls the TARDIS and appears on the view screen to talk to the Doctor, saying, "Here is my plan. This is what I'm doing. Ha ha."
Well,
ha."
maybe that's why the 11th Doctor said, "Tell me everything."
Yeah,
To the
because sometimes
vampires,
they
'cause
do.
Sometimes it works.
But then he said, one day that'll work or something.
Maybe it was one day it'll work again.
For me, in this new incarnation.
Right.
Now, Stein is working to do. He's been injured. He's been hurt. Sometimes he has it. Sometimes not. Sometimes he puts his hands on his hips. It's like, okay, I'm lost here. But he's working
Play
on
like you've been vaguely shot.
terminally vaguely shot. And he's there working on the device and goes, okay, it's set. Now you need to sit and rest.
Seriously.
That's where his lines.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I need to rest before I blow myself up.
All I have to do is flip the switch. It's just wow.
Called dramatic tension.
It's called
No.
Their prime viewers understand that sometimes it's nap time.
And then when they do come in to get it, it's like, yes. And they shoot him. And he's like, I'm not going to die yet. And he falls towards it.
Well,
Oh,
isn't it
my
a good
God.
thing he was well rested?
Yeah.
So he can just fall towards it and fall on it to get it going.
But
so.
the way he did it is just so purposeful.
Yes. Yes.
The Doctor tells his companions that the conditioning of the duplicates will wear off without the Daleks to reinforce it.
You liar.
Tegan has had enough of the death that follows the Doctor and decides to leave. She watches as the Doctor and Turlough leave in the TARDIS.
I am so glad that when Tegan came back around the corner, she watches the TARDIS leave and then does say, "I'll miss you." I'm so glad it wasn't, "I regret my choice."
Right.
I'm so glad it was just kind of like, no, this is going to be tough, but it's the right decision for me. Kind of reminded me of Donna in
Martha?
The Run. No, Donna.
Okay, but I was still thinking of Martha being like, this is my time to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for a
But-
different reason.
but-
But Donna
yeah.
in Runaway Bride says, "I'm not traveling with
Mhm.
you. You're great, but you're also scary and terrible, and the things that happen around you, I don't want to watch."
Yeah.
And
Now,
they-
she comes to regret it.
And I think even Davros has said death follows the Doctor. And especially in this episode, there's been a lot of death. And so she's had it. It's going,
Yeah.
Is that who
I
says
can't
that in
deal
the
with it
series?
anymore.
Is Davros? Death follows the Doctor? Because that's
I think so.
Journey's End?
Yeah,
Is
I
it
think it's in
Journey's
Journey's
End?
End. Yeah.
Well,
Tegan comes back, though, doesn't she?
She comes back for the 5 Doctor
She
special.
does come back for the 5 Doctors, yeah. Again, we've had this before with the classic show, the companions leaving it is like very matter of fact, very like you have no real hint of it before it happens. But I do like knowing that this was our last episode. If you watch,
Right.
I do like there are hints even in the beginning when they do the Star Trek move on the console, and she's like, "Oh, not again!" Kind of like, "I'm so tired of being knocked around in this thing." We do get a close up of her turning away from the screen because she can't watch the body count going up again. So they did plan that.
And this is not the last episode of this series. So that is nice that, like you said, it's different in that somebody leaves, not being killed off, but just leaves, and the show continues on to next week.
Right.
So it's not
In the
played
middle.
up as big as what is now, like when we talked about
Like if
him
someone
leaving
leaves.
Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
It's
stuff
not the
that we never really-
season ender. It's not the mid-season ender.
Right.
How many seasons or series was he the Doctor?
From
Davison?
1981 to 1984.
So this is towards the end of his run.
This is towards the end of his run,
Yeah,
About
'cause
3. Sorry.
so this story is Resurrection of the Daleks, and then we get Planet of Fire, and then we get The Caves of Androzani, which is his last story.
And the next episode, Turlough leaves.
And then we get Perry as the main companion.
Oh, she goes through a bad transformation
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Doctor.
There's a companion who wishes she stayed home.
She's an American.
And I do know that
Oh, yeah, right. I love that accent. Doctor!
I did find out that Lighton does come back with the
Yes.
next Doctor.
I found that as
So I
well.
thought that was
I
nice
found that too.
as being a continuation.
He's not a duplicate.
He's not.
He's not a duplicate.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say
So
that.
he's just a mercenary
for hire.
dirtbag
Did they just hire
Oh, the
to
tall
do-
soldier guy that
Yeah.
walks off in the end?
Yeah.
with the two soldiers.
Well,
None
yeah,
of them
kind
were
of told me that
duplicates.
earlier.
I didn't know then. I was looking afterwards, and then we had moved on.
But that's why I guess he was going, no, this is my job. Go in, get the guy, come out. Now you're changing all the rules.
And it also
So it
kinda
explained him a
complica-
lot more.
Yeah, but it also makes things a little weird in that why didn't the Daleks duplicate him? I mean, why didn't the Daleks kill him? Okay. Yeah, I guess he's just one of the lucky ones. But
It is too bad that Tegan was like bedridden for most of the story,
yeah.
if this was her last. But I did like her speech at the end about it when it stops being fun, like to stop being on this ride. I think that's a lesson the writers could have learned in the future with some of the companions.
But you know, she may have the injury and be bedridden, but she does maybe not a lot of action, but she does say a lot of things, kind of like everybody else. That's like, because like, what does the Doctor do in this episode? Not that
Yeah, 'cause
much.
there was a lot of information that happened in those scenes with her with all the soldiers that we
Yeah.
needed, and she was our ears for that.
And it was kind of like she does have a concussion, and I like when it's like, no, you can't get out of bed. She's like, the hell with that, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
So again, I liked her in this episode, but
And the practicality that we're going to be shot. We're both dead already. now.
she seemed very she seemed more than just a person there to react off the Doctor. She seemed like a person to, you know.
I like both companions. I wanted to know more about them. I thought they were interesting characters. So this episode, because I did not watch any of his run, so I didn't know these companions.
Yeah, the Fifth
I like
Doctor
them.
honestly is the least
Versed.
watched Doctor that for me. I just can't find anything. When I watch an episode of his, I know this is sacrilege for a lot of people, and I get it. But for me, when I watch a Fifth Doctor episode, when I get to the end of it, I'm done. I don't need to watch the next one. For some reason, I just can't get into Davison.
Yeah, we've had a struggle finding a good story that we wanted to do for Davison's introduction to our podcast, and this one kind of just came up as fitting.
And I want to ask, if you've watched Davis's episodes, which series is the one that you think is the best?
Yeah.
That shows him best as the Doctor?
What would you
Let us
recommend?
know, and then we can see about that.
Yeah.
I like how we are sort of on the podcast following the story of the Daleks.
Yeah.
You know,
That-
through the
that-
different
yeah.
doctors. So I personally enjoy that. It kind of fills in a lot of blanks for me.
That was something that was kind of a goal, was to see how each Doctor deals with the Daleks, because that's one consistent thing and villain of the show.
Right.
An article by Russell T. Davis in the Doctor Who Annual in 2006 suggested that the Supreme Daleks' attempt to assassinate the High Council was one of the initial clashes in the last Great Time War mentioned in the 2005 series that he revived. And I think Turlough is the last male companion until we get to Adam. From here on out, it's
Well,
all
that's
been
a segue.
it's all been females.
You're not talking about Adam from Eccleston's season.
Yes, I am.
Wow.
No. Oh.
Yes.
Well, Mickey.
But he
Oh,
did-
Adam was before Mickey.
Mickey.
Yes, that's right.
Ah!
The Resurrection of Daleks. Final thoughts?
I don't think I'll be watching it again anytime soon, but, it had some moments, and for a classic Doctor Who, okay, pretty good. It's a Dalek episode. They're very Dalek-y.
I could see they were trying to do some interesting stuff, and it was interesting to see the filmmaking of that time, the good part of it and the bad part of it. But this was the first classic Who that we've done that I have not enjoyed the episode itself. I was very curious to see Peter Davison. I thought he seemed to have a lot of potential, but the character didn't do anything in the script. I enjoyed seeing this story in the complete story of the Daleks, the canon of it all, but and that was about it.
Yeah, I think I agree with the assessments so far. Watching it, the pace is becoming more modern. How fast things happen. I think I enjoyed watching it. I had to watch it twice to try to understand a lot of the plot points, but even then, I still don't think I have a grip on everything. And I agree that I feel like I didn't really get to know Peter Davison as a Doctor, so I'll have to look out for some of those other stories with him. But yeah, seeing the Daleks and seeing Davros, him evolve through these different stories is good, and I think it really helps with the modern Doctor Who to have, going back to these classics, to have something to anchor us, so that we already know what the Daleks are about, so that's not another question that we have to figure out.
It does show where some ideas came from in the modern show.
You were mentioning, Brian, the amount of death and the grotesqueness of some of the deaths is really surprising to me as a modern Doctor Who viewer.
I said it, I think, at the beginning, where I liked the story once you figure out what it is. But the storytelling, how it was edited and put together and explained to the viewer, was very disjointed, and I did not like that. The substance is there, that's why I like the story, but I do not like how it was executed.
And Kelsey decided not even to show up.
Did Kelsey watch it?
Yeah, we watched it.
And let that sit for a while. She actually sat through it and still didn't want to come.
Nope.
I got nothing to say.
Memories, exterminate. Yeah, I mentioned that we have struggled trying to find a good introductory Fifth Doctor serial to give our podcast. This was probably one of the more, I don't want to say entertaining, but that might be the best word.
We always wanted to fit in with what we're doing in the modern show.
Yes.
Like you said, this is for Victory of the Daleks.
And I think that's what helps this become a little bit more palatable. We do have another one planned for this season. Hopefully that'll be the same, if not better. I haven't watched it yet. But I do agree that Peter Davison as the Doctor in this episode is more of a third party rather than the first party in the story. And the story could have been streamlined so much to make it understandable, to make it more coherent. Because I like the confusion in the beginning, but then that confusion never lets up with explanation or anything. It just continues to spiral. And special effects do get a little bit better, but then they do things to make those leaps in progress take 2 steps back. So I don't. It's this weird push and pull thing that's with me with this serial, but we watched it.
Eugene Albano of the Who Knew podcast says, I watched it.
Oh, we should get that on a t-shirt.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is that he does this whole story without the screwdriver, so that's commendable.
And I don't think the Doctor has a screwdriver until the TV movie.
That wraps up Resurrection of the Daleks. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew.
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Allburn.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
Comment on our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
Also listen to us on your Amazon Echo by enabling a podcast skill.
All of our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer.
Delia Derbyshire.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
Bye, Eugene.
We'll rush through this last bit.
right.
This was 1984. Each Dalek has a walkie-talkie deep inside, and the tentacle just hits the button.
It's a CB.
Breaker.
you should really end every transmission with over.